Mr. Rajinder Saini from Parvasi Media. It's not a complaint, but
The complaints are okay.
we have been interacting with most of the Minister of Immigration since Mr. Jason Kenney and even before that. Mr. McCallum, Mr. Ahmed Hussain, Mendicino, Mr. Fraser. But it is almost, you are Minister for almost 1.5 years, and first time we are interacting with you and you are visiting Brampton. So we have been giving feedback to all of previous ministers that most of these kids who are coming from other parts of the world, they are here for permanent immigration. They want to stay in Canada. So we were alarming them. We were giving them this warning that please keep in mind that they are not going back. And we were always being told that, you know what, they are here for good qualification, education, and they will go back. They are $25 billion industry. They are doing so much to our country. They are contributing so much. But all of a sudden, since you have become minister, the government has taken the U-turn. Cut, and whatever we are seeing, maybe it is a political decision, we don't know, that there is a big hue and cry in the community. Hundreds of thousands of these students are now here. Many of them are without status. They don't want to go back. They have mental issues. They don't have work to do. Most of these colleges are now shutting down. There were mushrooming of these private colleges all of a sudden. And many of them were recruiting them without any legal way. So there's a chaos in the community right now. Today we just saw news that a girl has not been found for the last 1 month. Every single day, these students are committing suicides. So much problem we can see in our community right now. So I don't know how the government is going to deal with them. Are they going to send them back, or how they will be rehabilitated here? We don't know. And now there is another big challenge for these students is that when you took decision that they have to appear for IELTS again, many of them are not able to get that, and now they are without status. Whether they will be allowed to stay here or not, we don't know. So such a mess now. You are trying to clear it up, but who created it and why created it, we don't know.
Look, I think first and foremost, it's important to say this, and I don't think I can say it enough, that someone that is here and is not entitled to stay needs to go home, and that's the reality of things. The solution is not to give visas to absolutely everyone simply because they don't want to leave. This is what they agreed to do.
But they were promised, Minister.
They were made promises. I understand that people have made promises to them, and I think that is where the human aspect of this comes into play. What I've tried to do within my department is to make sure, because of the labor, because there is some skilled labor and people are qualified in a lot of fields where we need people, is to make sure that we focus a little more on domestic draws into our permanent residency pools. I've directed my department, I've directed provinces to focus more on the PNP draws internally instead of going abroad and bringing in even more folks where you have this talented pool here. That doesn't clear up the entirety of the situation that we see today. The expiration of postgraduate work permits is something that we are monitoring closely over the course of the next few years, and it's going to be a rough ride. Part of cleaning up this challenge that we see will mean that people's hopes will be dashed to some extent. But again, no one was guaranteed automatic permanent residency, and ideally, we would have the bad actors pay for the promises that they falsely created. Someone has made money along this. It wasn't the federal government, other than indirectly through taxes. Mm-hmm. Universities, colleges have all made money. Provinces have made money. The books in Ontario have been balanced on the backs of international students. I'm not inventing this as a matter of political rhetoric. It's clearly been said in some of the budget analyses that have been provided with respect to the province of Ontario. That's a reality that I'm going to have to deal with the Ontario government and have an honest conversation about how we fix this. But it isn't up to the federal government to clean this up entirely, because we didn't create this in the first place. Probably should have been better oversight. That's water under the bridge. And again, the criticism is that I've leveled on myself is I probably trusted these people too long. But it's something that has ended, and we'll continue to monitor. If the federal government has to take more measures with respect to these institutions, I know some are closing down, probably for the right reasons, it will. in a federal system like Canada, provinces have jurisdiction, but with that jurisdiction comes some responsibility that I feel hasn't been exercised appropriately. But I'm here to do it. Sadly, or hopefully, depending how you see my role, my job isn't just to stamp 500,000 visas a year. It looks at the entire ecosystem, looks at needs, looks at job creation, job loss. It looks at the intellectual capacity of Canada, the societal acceptance of bringing people into the country, and we adjust accordingly. Sometimes we get it right, and indeed, I think on balance over the last 10 years we've gotten it right, and sometimes we don't get it as right as we should have.
Okay. My follow-up question is that what we feel is that the government biggest decision which was wrong was that bringing these grade 12 students, which was too young to bring it here. I mean, in a metropolitan kind of a culture, they were never able to adjust themselves, but that's fine. We were having hundreds and thousands of these students, and the perception was they're going to stay here, settle here, and then government took a challenge of 500,000 PRs every year. That was very aggressive decision at that time. Then they took again decision that no, we are not going to bring them. There will be cut in that, reducing the numbers. Housing demand at that time, it was looking that yes, we need lots of houses, lots of demand, and all of a sudden, every provincial government was aggressive to build more and more homes. Now prices are down. We don't know how much demand we have. So there is an imbalance in all these sectors now, immigration, housing, everything. So how the government is going to deal with that?
I think in housing, it's a problem that's been created over the last 3 decades. And you can't solve it over the course of a few years. That is just the reality. The federal government's been out of federal housing for about 30 years. It's only Justin Trudeau and the programs that we put into place that have started to address the supply of housing and the federal government's involvement in this. It's probably a failure across the system to deal with that, and it's a bit of a problem that's been in the making for, regardless of the government, that's been in place for about 3 decades. I think regardless of these sort of, I'm not saying I don't take them seriously by calling them blips, but the market goes up and the market goes down. I think the need for sustained federal investment will be important so that we don't cause this in another 10 years when people suddenly say, well, where was the federal government? It is a provincial responsibility. Doesn't mean the federal government shouldn't be investing it. A government like ours is active in making sure that we're in the business of supply. With mortgage rates coming down, with interest rates coming down, you see that attractiveness and the ability of people to be able to buy houses.
We don't know. Yeah.
There's a lag, you don't know yet.
Yeah.
But you also see the price line of houses kind of stabilized as a result, or even going up. So we do have to adjust to that. I think in my role, the most important thing and decision that I took is what economists look a little more intimately than more people expect, which is what the population progression is. And in the last levels plan, that is much more complete than any other levels plan that we've ever provided. One, because we fold in temporary residents into the numbers, was the stabilization of the population growth, and even a population drop in year 3, if our plan does bear out through the last 3 years. So that'll be very important for me. People making, it'll reduce the number of housing starts that we need to generate. It's more or less confirmed by the Parliamentary Budget Officer, probably, in fact, as close as we've ever gotten when it comes to that type of scrutiny. So that's a positive sign, but doesn't mean that it absolves us from our need to continually invest. And I think I would expect the next leader of the Liberal Party to make those commitments as well, because I think we've learned our lessons from getting out of the business for about 30 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.